I think you can't deny yourself of your curiosities as an artist. You have to be able to allow yourself that space.
You're listening to Creative Rebels, the podcast for creatives. Welcome back, Rebels. David Speed here as a train thunders above my head with a beautiful episode, I think, with the amazing Brooke Cormier. I could have spoken to Brooke for double the amount of time that I did. She's an incredible creative and such a source of knowledge, I think. She has really nailed down some of the major problem points, roadblocks that a lot of artists suffer with. Things like marketing, which I know is a hot button issue for many of you. Starting an art business, the technical skills of making your art, and the what I think is the most important thing, the confidence and psychological roadblocks that we all face, including the greatest creators that you've ever known. We all suffer with exactly the same things as you do. And I think the general overall message of this podcast, well, what I took from it was Brooke's confidence, the ability to create magic because you believe that you can. And I think that's something so many of you it could help you, is if you started to build up that confidence and that actual belief, because you've had it battered into your eardrums since you were old enough to pick up a crayon. Everyone has told you that art is for some people and it's not for you, or that having a creative career is impossible or too difficult, or all of those things. And that doesn't do wonders for the confidence, does it? And I think if you can somehow, some way craft and shape that confidence for yourself, then joyful wonders await you, my friends. And I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in hundreds of guests on this show over the years. And Brooke is just another incredible example of where that confidence can take you. As always, if you enjoy this one, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And let's go and talk to Brooke. When I first emailed you, I was like, come on the podcast. And you were like, give me 6 months because BRB, I'm just moving to Vienna. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And so here we are. So now how's it going? Like, are you all settled? How's Vienna?
I feel like I've been more settled now than I have in a long time. Yeah, I moved from Toronto over here in February, and yeah, obviously leading up to that point, it was also like a lot of like packing, and I had like, oops, my book falling over in the background. I had like a lot of packing to do, and I also had like an inventory of my artwork, so I had to, figure out what to do with that. And so it's just been kind of like go, go, go. So when you emailed me, I was like, I don't think I have the capacity at this moment in time.
Yeah,
But I'm
that's
really
fair
happy
enough.
to finally be sitting down. And yeah, now things are feeling like I'm feeling much more settled, and I'm finally getting more into like a rhythm after not having a rhythm for half a year. So yeah, it's been good.
It's a very brave move. I know you have like a history with Vienna, and obviously that's where you met your partner, and that's why you've ended up moving over there. But was there any trepidation, or were you scared in any way of making that move? Because I know, like, I would feel terrified of moving from London because I feel like my base of like collectors are all based in London, and I would be really scared to go to another city purely for the art, because I was like, I would wonder if I can be an artist in a different city from London. Did that cross your mind?
I think that honestly, the hardest part for me was not so much for my business and like selling my work, but more just like the fact that, Canada is my home and all of my friends and family were there and I'm very close with them. And so that was just like the emotional toll. I think that in terms of like me and my art business, I'm actually, funny enough, the majority of my customers were actually American. Like, a lot are Canadian, but I would say, like, more than 60% are American, and so I'm always, like, shipping anyways, and so, yes, shipping costs are a little more pricey here in Vienna to, back over to North America, but I think that it's still manageable. And I think, yeah, I think that was not such a big like hurdle for me to jump over. I think that also since I'm kind of leaning a little bit more into YouTube now and making videos there, that's like such a digital thing. So like, it doesn't really matter where you are in the world in order to make things like that. And also Vienna is like such a wonderful place to be an artist, I think. I feel like they have such a like respect for the arts and also like a history with the arts. And I'm also very lucky to be a part of like a shared studio here. So it's a long journey of actually moving here, but I actually did live here in Vienna from 2019 to 2021. And at that point, I did join this shared art studio, and that was just like such a game changer for me. It's something that I had never experienced before because I'm sure as you can probably relate, like being an artist can be such a solitary kind of career. Like it's not always, I mean, it's awesome for you having this podcast where you get to talk to creative people, but for me, like when I was just solely just painting, it's like I'm home by myself every day, like painting. I really have to like force myself to go out to have like social connection. And sometimes it's not so easy to like force yourself to do that. And then you kind of like, you're a little bit of a hermit, I think. So yeah, like joining an art studio where it's basically this giant house and like we all like share a kitchen and a common room, but then we have our individual workstations and there's like over 25 of us there. I actually have to count, but it's like a lot of different people doing different things. Like there's painters, there's graphic designers, there's like tattoo artists, there's like all kinds of things. And that's something like when I moved back to Toronto in 2021, that's like the biggest thing I missed, I think, was like being a part of a shared art studio. And so that's why like moving back here has been a bit easier, I think, because I'm like, yes, I have this like beautiful thing to come back to. And I guess it wasn't as scary this time because I feel like I already had a little bit of my roots in the ground and I had like worked from here before. And so, yeah, I think that it definitely is like a huge move and like also scary, especially with like the language barrier, because obviously like people speak German in Austria and I had never learned German before, so that has been that has been a journey on its own. I'm like currently trying to learn the language and yeah, so that's been like a little bit of a a little bit of a interesting thing. But yeah, overall I'm like super happy being here and finally like getting settled in.
German is a beautiful language, so you'll have fun with it. I love German. Um, I think no one really talks about that loneliness, do they? Of the artist, of the creator, when you're especially like your studio practice and you yeah, like you say, you're a hermit, you lock yourself away and get lost in that. I think having fight like finding a space where you have, especially where there's different disciplines in there, is so beneficial if you can find it, because having that network, like you can learn so much from, like I've learned so much from the tattoo industry, and but that was only because I was part of the tattoo industry at one stage, and like a lot of my best friends are tattooers. I mean, I think back to when I first started pricing my work. I looked straight to the tattoo industry of like, okay, well, this person charges £100 an hour, and this canvas will probably take me this amount of time, and then that was kind of how I started my pricing insights. But yeah, just having a group of people who have got different disciplines going on, and it's not like it's just the fact that you bump into that person while you're making a cup of tea in the kitchen, and you're having those chats that are really like poignant and relevant to that time of whatever that person's going through. I think are so like that you can't plan for that. It's just like it just happens, and it's really beautiful and worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so valuable, like to, and also everybody has such a different like group of skill sets. And so like if I'm like, oh, I'm having trouble in this particular thing, like there's somebody around me that I can be like, I think they know more about that one thing than I do. And then I can just like approach them and be like, hey, I had a question about this. Or like I remember when I first joined the studio, I had never stretched my own canvas before. Like I had always just been buying pre-stretched canvases, and like all around me, all these other artists are like stretching their own canvas, and I'm just like, I should really learn how to do that. Like, and I'm just like, hey, can you teach me how to stretch a canvas? And it's like, sure. And then it's this fun little like thing we do for an hour where it's like, okay, now this and that, and And so I think that that's like it really is so valuable to have that like opportunity for learning new things from other people. And I think that that's definitely something that I had lacked before because as an artist, I think it's also kind of challenging to find things like that. You know what I mean? Where it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, like I want to do this thing. Like, how do I find other artists who, I can also connect with? And I think that like it's nice online. Like I've also connected with other artists like in different places online that I can like talk to and whatever, but it's also a completely different experience when it's also in real life, like face-to-face interactions. So yeah, that's definitely been like super cool and super, super rewarding too.
Stretching canvases is really fun, and I wonder if the clients will ever notice. But when I look at like a hand stretched canvas that's not been bought from the shop, like you can just tell. Like I don't know whether we'd be the only ones that would be able to tell, but like just the corners and like that little fold, and I
Yeah.
just it's just beautiful. Yeah.
And I also think like I did this whole series a few years ago where honestly it was not even about the the painting. It was that I had this idea that I wanted to make my own frames and I got obsessed. I was like, okay, like I love woodworking, but I don't really know anything about woodworking. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try and make a series. And I think I made 10 paintings and I was like, I'm gonna stretch all of my own canvases and I'm gonna make all of my own frames. And I think that like in the canvas, which was honestly in hindsight like not a great idea because it's not like my canvases were at a complete 90-degree angle or 90-degree like corner, and then also the frames weren't exactly too. So when I like put it in, it was like, okay, maybe this painting works a little bit better in this wonky frame, and then this one is. But I think that there's also like a certain charm to that too, where it's like you can tell that this was like homemade and it like still looks good on your wall. It's not like a piece of trash, but it's like, you can tell the like little imperfections, but I think that that's also it definitely has some charm to it. But that was a really fun project. And I also had somebody in the studio who like had like a miter saw and stuff who like taught me how to use that and like or more like supervised, the entire operation. So that was super fun.
I think those imperfections are actually going to become more important as we move into this AI digital age of like striving for perfection via digital tools. I think the handmade, the handcrafted, the imperfections, the mistakes, the story of how the art is made, I think is going to become actually like a status symbol of this is real. This was made by a pair of hands, and you can tell.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I think that in terms of like that topic of AI art, I feel like maybe I have a little bit more faith in humanity than maybe other people. Or I'm like when people ask me like, "Oh, are you, how do you feel about it? Like, are you scared that like, I don't know, AI is gonna like take over your job or something like that?" But I don't know, I've always kind of had like the hope, I guess, like the that people will always like respect and value work from other people. And I think that especially in my um art form, which is I guess a little more traditional since I'm doing like oil paintings and stuff like that, it's like I don't know, at least not until this point in time, like AI hasn't been able to like make an oil painting. So I'm kind of like, okay, I think that something like so like tangible and handmade is always gonna like, you know, be of more value than something that's made by a robot. So I don't know. Maybe that's a bit of a naive point of view, or but I
No, not
still choose to believe it.
yeah, 100%. I mean, if we look at history, the sign painting industry went through a really, really rough patch in the 1980s because the production of plastic signs was far cheaper than paying someone to actually hand paint it. And the industry really suffered, and a lot of people like went and got different jobs because these machines. And now we see this huge boom of sign painting in the last like 10, 15 years. Sign painting is very much back because there are people have realized that there's a beauty to this skill, this craft that's been passed down over generations. The sort of apprentice scheme of like becoming a sign painter is such a like beautiful journey. um and so we've seen it happen. Like there was a cheaper, easier way of doing it that just this machine spat it out. And for some people, that will always be the go-to. But the people who would buy those spat out signs are the same people that would buy an AI print off of one of those sites that's just like churning it out. They were never going to buy your work because that's not what they're interested in. Like our buyers buy it because of the story that's part of it, that because of the hours that's gone into it, literally because a painting took us 2 3 months to make, is the reason why they're buying a print of it or they're buying the original of it, is because that time's gone into it. They, if we'd said to them, yeah, I made this in 30 seconds by snapping my fingers, they'd be like, do I really want it then? Like that's not why they buy our stuff. So I really think we have nothing to worry about. I think there's a lot of scare mongering. I think there's certain industries certainly that do have a lot to worry about. I know there's loads of graphic designers that listen to this podcast, and I wish I had something good to say to them, but there are going to be a lot of their like corporate client work is now going to be outsourced to a machine that can do the same sort of thing. And that's really terrifying. Like logo production and stuff like that can be done really quickly. But I think the reason that someone wants a logo is because they want to stamp it on things, and they want it quick and to get it out and to brand their stuff. They don't want to like sit back and meditate and have a cup of tea and make their space feel beautiful, which is what you and I do. So the AI is definitely going to have a massive dent on certain careers. But I think if you make art, or if you're a writer, or a poet, or a music maker, like there's been that recently, that band on Spotify that's whatever Sunset is called, and it's completely AI generated and whatever. And it's like I don't think anyone's queuing up to, like, it's got millions of plays, but that's because people have been duped into it by Spotify, who have been feeding it out to people. Like, build a hardcore fan base of people who love your music, who love your art, who love your poetry, and they're your people. You've just got to find them. And everything else, all of the AI is just noise and slop. I think is like the perfect word for it. It's just this crap that's like distracting. Like, just sack it off and you'll be fine.
Yeah. I also think that like this human element is so important. And what I have been kind of like, I guess surprised to find in more like recent years of my art career is that, because I kind of always thought that like, oh, people buy my art because they like the painting, because they like, oh, this is a beautiful flower and I want to hang this on my wall, or whatever the case is. And that's kind of like what I always thought. But then, especially after kind of revamping my YouTube channel and showing more of like my own personal values as like a person, as an artist, showing my like personality online and stuff like that, I've found like people don't buy my work just because they solely like the picture. It's because they also find some kind of connection with me as an artist and as a person, and they are way more like motivated to support me because of that. And I think, yeah, in terms of like AI, it's like, well, who are you connecting with? Like, you're not connecting with anybody because there's nobody there. It's like only the picture or only the like poem or the piece of writing, like it doesn't matter. So that has been like something that has been a bit eye-opening for me. Like seeing people say like, "Oh, I bought this print or I bought this painting because, I've been following you and your journey since you started painting, and I've just been like so they're like happy to support you in that way." And so yeah, that's been really cool to find actually.
Dude, it's wild. I had the same light bulb moment when I realized, hang on, this is not about the image. I think that it really happened when I produced like the painting I'm most proud of. Like technically, it pushed me to the very edge of my ability, and I was like, "This is." And I was so focused on the image, and then I did a print run of it, and the people that bought it were people who I had had real life conversations with, who I knew in some way, and I was just like, "Hang on, I thought this was going to sell out simply because of the look of it." And yeah, it was such a huge like, hang on, there's so much more to this. And that's why I'm always saying to artists, like, I mean, I am deeply introverted, and the last thing I want to do is like be the face of my art. But like, you kind of have to get over that. It's I think there is a lovely sort of fairy tale dream-like scenario where you just put out the art and the art speaks for you, and you don't have to do anything, and you can just let the art tell the story. And I just don't think, especially in this day and age where we have so many options and there are more artists than ever, the ones that are willing to actually share a piece of themselves. And you can, it doesn't have to be everything. Like, I don't share hard, literally, I share like this much, like tiny, tiny, tiny amount. But it's enough to let people into my ecosystem that um to find the people that think and feel like I do, and they're my people, and they're the people who buy my work. And yeah, that was a huge, huge, huge light bulb moment for me when I realized that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that that is definitely a struggle for artists like, because I would consider myself more of an outgoing type of person. Like, I definitely have my like introverted moments where I'm like, okay, I need to be by myself and work on my own stuff and whatever. But I think that I have in my adulthood have really like discovered that I am more extroverted, and I think that going back to like when I was working at home by myself and like not having like pretty much any social interaction during the week, where I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna lose my mind. And then like also relying way too much on my partner. Like when he comes home from work, I'm like, we need to do like talk to me, like so I think that like for me personally and the type of content that I make and the way that I present myself as like I guess an artist on the internet, like it is not as difficult for me, I guess, because I don't really have like it's not so big of a hurdle to jump. Like I feel like, you know, decently comfortable talking, to other people in front of a camera, whatever it is. But I do think that, yeah, in this day and age where like social media has become I think important for you to have as an artist, as much as like we don't like to admit it, I think. Because like I know there's like so many videos out there, whatever it is, like how to have a really successful career without social media. Like I know that it's possible, but I think that like also a lot of the time the path of least resistance, I guess, would be to be online in some type of way, at least in the beginning. And yeah, I certainly feel for the people who are way more introverted and have a much harder time doing that. And I know, like, with my content, it's specifically on YouTube where I'm really speaking mostly to artists and sharing my experience in hopes that, like, people will learn something or whatever. Um, yeah, sometimes I have a hard time, like, knowing exactly what to say to people who are really introverted when especially since my business has been built, and my career as an artist has been built more or less, like, on social media because, the first couple years of painting full time, I was doing in-person stuff, so, like, art fairs and art galleries and, um events like that. But then once I actually started getting an audience on social media, I transitioned pretty fast to just selling online, where it was like it was like a beautiful thing where I could like, okay, I can create whatever I want and I put it on my website for sale, and then I reach out to the people on Instagram and say like, this is a painting I made, and if you would like to purchase it, you can go to my website. And that's kind of like how my business is built. But I know that like it took a lot to first of all build an audience on social media. And so yeah, I guess like what kind of advice would you personally give, you being more of an introverted person, to like artists who are now, you know, I guess battling this whole like, social media debacle?
Well, so there's a couple of things there, and recently we've been talking quite a bit about social media on the podcast because having had a 3 year break of the pod, through coming back, I've realised it's so much more of a topic that people are interested in at the moment, because I think there is a lot of burnout and a lot of like fatigue with the way the algorithms are changing and stuff like that. Firstly, I guess I would say that the label of introvert is really not helpful. So even though I just stuck it on myself, like if you tell yourself that you're an introvert, then that is going to hold you back from opportunities, and all opportunities come from other people. So you are going to have to connect. There. It's really going to be impossible for you to be an artist and not connect with other people, because that, like we said earlier, it's really not about the visuals. That's like being good at your craft is kind of that kind of has to be in there. Although not necessarily. If you have an amazing connection, there are people who are doing like stick figure drawings, like really kind of crudely made, but because they're able to connect with people, that stuff does really well. There's someone on Instagram, I think it's called Gangster Doodles. Anyway, like it's well drawn, but it's kind of naive, I guess, like naive style. Um, anyway, I think if you're going to have to connect with people in some way, and I think that a lot of times I meet artists that say, I don't want to do the social media thing, but really, what they're saying is, I don't want to do hard work, because there is a way to make yourself successful off of social media, but they're not willing to put that work in either. So it's like there's going to be hard work somewhere along the line, and you can either decide to, okay, well, I've got the art side down. Let's just assume that your art is good. Okay, if your art is good, then all you have to do is work out one other thing, which is either how to sell your work in person or away from social media, or how to sell your work on social media. And if it's how to sell your work on social media, that's a skill that is learnt. And so look at what's working, look at what other people do, bring your own unique voice to it. I make it sound so simple, but I mean, it kind of is. You've just got to learn a new skill, and I think that's where the friction comes, and that's why people say they hate social media, but is because they're not willing to uh, they feel funny in front of camera. And I'm sure, I mean, so when you started your YouTube channel, I'm sure you didn't, because I look at your videos now, they're so comfortable. You're there, like, just, I feel like we're just having a chat and you're in the studio and you're just dropping the knowledge. And I'm like, yes, that's true. I think that too. But when you first like clicked the red button on your camera and made your first YouTube video, like, I'm guessing it was probably a learning curve to become comfortable in front of camera.
No, I was completely comfortable right off the get-go. No, it actually, like, what people don't see is probably like at least 15 or 20 minutes of me being extremely awkward before I can actually take like, oh, welcome to this video, in not like a super cringe way. So I think that, but it is definitely true that like the more you do it, the more you just like, I don't know. I think that when I first started, I put so much pressure on every single video that I was like, I need to nail this, like, and then as soon as I press record, I'm like, "Ugh, oh my God, what was I gonna say?" Ugh," and it was just like chaos. Um, but now that I have actually kind of accepted it as just part of my job, like it's like, okay, I've also adopted a mentality more recently, where it's like I am no longer going to attach like any particular value on any video that I make. Like I'm gonna do exactly what I want to do in this video, whether it's like share knowledge about a certain topic, or if it's just like, here's a really cool trip I went on and I want to like make more of like a cinematic, showing the experience or whatever. Like I'll do the video, and then as soon as I press upload, I'm like, okay, I have to just release myself of like any expectation and move on to the next one. Because I found in the past when I was like really assigning so much value to everything that I posted, um, and then had all these expectations like, okay, well, this particular video I worked so hard on, like I've been editing this one for like 40 hours, and now like I press upload and I'm like, oh my god, and like, and if it doesn't do well, then I'm just like, heartbroken and so deflated. And I thought like, okay, that's that's like the worst thing to do, especially if I want to like stay motivated to actually keep creating. So I kind of have like, yeah, just decided like, okay, it is in the hands of like the algorithm or like whatever now. I'm If it does well, it does well. If it doesn't, that's okay, because I'm already on to the next one. Like I'm already creating the next thing, and all I can do is just like try and make what I create like, I guess, as I don't know, authentic to myself, or just try and make it as good as I can, and also like always trying to improve in little ways. And like you said, like it's such a it's such a learning curve in terms of like skill acquisition when you are yeah, before I started my YouTube channel, I had absolutely no editing experience with like videos. Like I had no idea how to make a video. And just like through going on YouTube, and also really struggling with what kind of question am I even asking? When that happens to you, where it's like I'm looking for a specific thing. It's like I have this like some idea in mind for like a transition from one thing to the other, and then you can't even put it into words, so then you don't even like, it's just like, like so many of those moments. And just like slowly, 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 you just like get better and better and better. And yeah.
Yeah, I think your videos are so easy breezy. Is the words that come to mind is easy breezy. Like they just kind of flow. It's really, if it does feel really natural. So yeah, you've really nailed it, I think. And obviously that was how I discovered you, was through videos. I think I mean, where did the decision come to you to actually start a YouTube channel? Because I've always been like too petrified to do it, because I know what like a commitment it is. And you were already juggling this like huge Instagram following that you've got. Like, what on earth possessed you to like, oh, I'm going to do YouTube as well, and I'm going to, not only am I going to do YouTube, I'm going to teach myself how to edit, and all of the, I guess it's, you're learning proper content creation at that point.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all. And I guess that's a very good question. What possessed me to do
Yeah,
this?
you nutter.
I've I know. I'm actually belong in a loony house, I think. But no, I think that what a big thing was is that through kind of gaining an audience of artists on social media, on Instagram in particular, like I always thought like I'm using Instagram as a way to market my artwork for art sales. And that was like, that's always been my mentality. I'm only doing this so that I can make money from my art, because that has always been the dream. And then like after years of doing this, I kind of realized that like, okay, maybe 1% of my following is actually collecting my art,
Yeah,
whereas the other 99% is actually just artists who are interested in what I'm doing. Maybe they like my work, maybe they don't give a shit about my work, but they really just are interested in my journey and like how I became an artist. And I feel like I wasn't really talking to that audience. Like I wasn't really addressing them, which kind of felt weird too, where I'm like, this is so many of these people are interested in that, and all I'm trying to do is like, no, here's the artwork, like please buy it. And so I guess that that was a big reason why I decided to do the YouTube channel, because I'm like, this is finally a chance for me to like connect with that audience. And yeah, I mean, I think that it was also a way for me to, and I don't want to sound like a money hungry person or anything, but I think it was also a way for me to monetize that audience because I
Mm,
had never made any money from gaining this audience over time. Like I have never been paid a single dollar on Instagram for all of the years of effort I've been putting into content creation on that platform. The only way that I was making money is if people saw my work on Instagram and then decided to go to my website and like hit the checkout button. So this was also a way for me to be like, okay, this is going to be a very deep answer, but basically up until like 3 years ago, I had only like one or two revenue streams. It was like my prints and my paintings slash commissioned work. And that was like the only way that I was making money. And which is honestly such a blessing because I think that that is like, also the dream. Like you want to be able to support yourself from your work. And so I had achieved that, which was like amazing, but at the same time I felt a lot of pressure to then create work that I knew was going to sell because my livelihood depended on it. And so another reason why I wanted to kind of go into YouTube was to just, I guess, diversify my revenue streams a little bit so that maybe that would eventually take some financial pressure off of what I create. So it's like it almost gives me a little bit more creative freedom where it's like, no, I don't have to always keep in mind, like, okay, is this painting really going to appeal to my audience enough that somebody is going to buy it and then I can pay my rent or whatever? Like now, with having, really being able to connect to the artists in my audience and actually now starting to see um that I'm making some more money from this. Like, I think that eventually, if I'm consistent with it, and I know like before we pressed record, we were also talking about this a little bit more that I'm kind of giving myself like 2 years to really be consistent on the platform. And it is more or less an experiment. Like if it doesn't work, okay, then we pivot, if I'm not making enough from that, then I can also like try something new. Like I feel like I've always been kind of willing to kind of take different endeavors to see what come of it. So yeah, I think that like that was a big reason not only to talk to like speak directly to the artists in the audience and hopefully for them to find value in my work and see like maybe they're trying to become a full-time artist and they have no idea how to do it. Well, here's a video where I talk about my entire experience with like, well, this is how I handle my art commissions, or this is how you can start selling your work, or this is, so I think that that's been also super rewarding is having people say like, oh, I watched this video and it's like really given me the motivation to like keep going. And I know that that has been so valuable to me in my past when I was at that point in my career, like deciding and watching other people and like knowing that that provided me with so much value. It's really awesome to be kind of on the other side of that and providing value to other people. So, yeah, and then not to mention the whole obviously like trying to make money from it so then I can like have a little bit more creative freedom. So I think that those two things are kind of like the reason why I decided to take this whole YouTube adventure.
yeah, that's a really good motivation. How long have you been at YouTube now?
I started the channel in 2017. And then I didn't really take it that seriously. I kind of sporadically posted here and there, and then I started experiencing success on Instagram, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna lean into that, and I didn't really like touch my YouTube channel. So now it's been I started what I refer to as my revamp, like my channel revamp, where I actually am, doing it for real this time. I started that in May of 2022. So now it's been like 3 years of doing it, but only in the past 6 months have I actually committed to an upload schedule where I'm like, okay, I'm uploading every other Friday. And I have like really said, like, no exceptions. That's what I'm doing, because before I was also kind of like, oh, once a month, once every 2 months, oh, two in 1 week. Like it was so
Yeah,
all
yeah.
over the place. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm sticking to a schedule. And so that's only been in the past 6 months that I've been posting every other week. And yeah, that's certainly challenging since I'm doing everything myself, from like, coming up with the ideas to the filming and the editing and the. But yeah, so far I'm seeing like it's definitely a slower growth. Like I haven't had any major viral videos that have resulted in like, tens of thousands of followers or anything, but I kind of also prefer it this way because I really feel like the people who are following me are more or less actually interested in what I'm doing. Like it's been I see the same names coming up in like the comment section, which is
I
really
love
cool.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, where I'm just like, okay, Janina, like, it's really awesome to see stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really hate going viral, and it's annoying because I'm quite good at it. Like I sort of know how to like manipulate a video, and we're in such a difficult phase at the moment where it's like you either do nothing and you get crickets, or you go super viral and it's a million people. But I really don't like that influx of all of these new people who don't give a shit about your work. It's just something came up and they followed because of it, and then you get this like huge audience, but like they're not necessarily engaged. And I would swap a million unengaged followers for like 1,000 really engaged people, like a million times over. It's like, yeah. I really love your like attitude around the building of the YouTube channel. I think it's what I would recommend on this podcast, like for people doing. I think in the beginning, when you put that like consistency in, and because consistency is so important, as you obviously have recognized, and it's like you put that consistency in for 2 or 3 years, and then like you can then take your foot off the gas for a little bit. Like it's just, but that initial building stage is so important to be like consistent and showing up and answering all of the like that's one thing actually that I really noticed about like across your platforms is like you get asked so many questions, and that just goes to show that your career is a career that so many artists want to emulate, because they're all asking you like, how did you do this, how did you do that, which I think was a really interesting observation when I realized, hang on, she's every single element of her business she's being asked questions about, so that must mean that she's doing something right because people want to know that info.
Yeah, and it's also great now that I have actually addressed a lot of those questions through videos, that now I actually have a place that I can direct people to, where it's like, oh, you want to know specifically about that? Well, I made a 20-minute video where you can like learn everything about it. And I think that that's been really nice, because before starting the YouTube channel, when people ask me questions, it's like, okay, either I take half an hour out of my day to like type an email that's like 2 pages long to explain this and this and this, or like ignore that person and then have this guilt about it, because that's also a whole other thing, is like how I feel so like bad about not answering every single thing that people, leave a comment or whatever, and then I'm
Yeah,
just like, I want to be able to say like, thank you so much, like it really does mean a lot to me, but now it's kind of like at the point where I'm like, I literally don't have the time to be able to sit down and like respond to everybody.
yeah.
So it has been super great to like have a resource to point people to. It's like, oh, you have a question about this? Here, you can watch a video about it. And yeah, that was kind of cool. Like a few months ago, I did like an Ask Me Anything on Instagram where it's like, give me any of your business, art, whatever kind of questions, and I'll get to it. And it was kind of cool that like so many of the questions that were asked, all I had to do to respond to it was like, here is a link to the video, here's a link to that video, and it was like all the top questions. So I'm like, that's kind of that also kind of makes my job easier, where it's like I did it once and now I can like provide it for eternity. Obviously things change and I'll have to do like, updated videos on whatever topic, but I think that yeah, that's made my job a little bit easier.
Yeah, 100%. Are there certain questions that like come up over and over again? Because like with this podcast, I want this to be like a unique experience. So through because you have got so much on your YouTube, I didn't want to like ask you to basically rehash all of your videos, which actually made planning for this interview like quite difficult. As I was like, got to think of some original questions to ask Brooke that she's not been asked before. But like, what are the main things that you see like coming up over and over again that artists are like really struggling with?
So about a year ago, maybe it's been 2 years now, I put out like a questionnaire, I guess, or like a Google form for artists to fill out because I was just curious. This was when I was also starting the revamp, and I wanted to know like what were the biggest topics to address. And I got, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of responses, and I asked people also to be like as detailed as possible in like whatever struggle it is that you're trying to overcome as an artist, like what is it. And I ended up kind of being able to find 5 categories, but
Interesting.
the biggest one was marketing. So like, how do I market my artwork as an artist? One of them was time management. So especially I think for people who want to become a full-time artist but maybe have a job already or a family to take care of, how can
Yeah.
they manage their time in a way where they can like make it work? Another one was actually like starting an art business. So that being like, I want to be a full-time artist. I think that I have art that people would be interested in. What do I do next? Like, and for me, that would be something like, okay, get yourself a website, start a newsletter, like, do this and that, like that
Make
type
people
of
fall in
advice.
love with you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The easy task of garnering admiration. And another one was like technical skills. So,
Yeah.
people
Yeah. So
who
important.
have, yeah, like who have trouble with color theory, or actually just like how to, draw proportionately and things like that. And then another one was confidence, which actually surprisingly was a really big one that I got out of this questionnaire. So, and that was, so I kind of categorized that as like psychological roadblocks. So many people being like, I really want this, but I'm afraid. Like, I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of my family thinking poorly of me. I'm afraid of what, my community, my friends, whoever are going to think of me by like taking this leap. So with all of that it was actually a really fun thing. I'm like, wow, I'm conducting a study. Like, look at me, and I have all these answers. And so those are kind of like all categories that I keep in mind when I am making videos. And I actually so I designed this Notion template, and this is not at all a plug of my own product. But basically, I was introduced to Notion like 2 years ago now, and it's, if you don't know, like an organizational platform. And yeah, before I had all of my stuff like all over the place, like notes here and like everything like that. And so now I have like my entire art business on one point, and I have this whole database of like all of my YouTube videos, and it's like, what is the name of the video? When is the due date? Like, and I also have a category of like what the YouTube video falls under, and it's one of those five categories. Oh,
Oh,
actually, I
cool.
have one more category, and that's like artistic life. So I think that that's also what people want to see, is like people are interested in seeing what, what your day-to-day life looks like as an artist.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also important, because I know that when I was making the decision to become a full-time artist, or to try to become a full-time artist, I was also really interested in like, okay, but what does that actually look like? Like, how are people conducting their days, and like, whatever. So now that's also a category. So when I make my YouTube video, yeah, I have like due date, like all the script, like everything, all the ideas, all whatever, whatever. And then I also say like, okay, this is addressing this topic. Like this is all about like confidence, or this is all about starting an art business, or this is about, technical skill. I haven't actually done a lot of technical skill videos. I think that's something that I'll think about doing in the future, once I feel that once I don't have so much imposter syndrome of actually teaching technical skills. Now I've bought like so many new books on like, painting and the technical stuff, because I feel like a lot of this stuff I know more like intuitively, but can't really put it into words, and therefore wouldn't make me the best like teacher. So now I'm trying to like get in touch with that side, so that I can hopefully make more videos about that in the future. But yeah, that's a long way of saying that, yeah, those five topics are kind of like the biggest ones that I think that people have trouble with when they're pursuing an art career.
Yeah, I would massively resonate with those five or six. I know it's five, isn't it? Because the sixth is just letting people a window into your life. But I think even the window really helps. I think that we learn best through stories, and that's why I interview people on this podcast. Really, is just so that someone can see a little bit of themselves in you, and they can grab a bit of you and grab a bit of next week's guest and grab a bit of the guest from 6 weeks ago and just smash them all together and forming their own like unique journey. Um, but but yeah, those five do come up all the time, and they're. I mean, I won't go into sort of the specific things because obviously you've got videos on all of them, but I think the confidence is the one that kind of encapsulates all of the other points, because like if you become more confident, then the marketing will be easier, and if you become more confident, then you'll be able to like talk about your work more freely, and even the more your confidence grows, the more you're excited about your work and the more you put into your work, which means the more that you're making, the better, the steeper the curve is of like improvement, and you're just, yeah, because the making is so important. So I think, yeah, if we can nail the confidence, then so many of the other ones like kind of fall into place. But typically the confidence is one of the hardest things to go against, because we're literally just battling ourselves of like, is this a really bad idea? um I think if when I look at your, because as I've done my research on you, I've got this really like sort of overall, like so much more than many guests, I think, because it's so well documented online. I've got this really like nice overview of your career, but there's not, I didn't really find anything that was like low points or lack of confidence or anything. Would you say that's ever been something that, have there been low points in your career? Or because I can't find anything, like everything seems to be like one thing has led to the other, which has led to the next, which has been this kind of like basic ascent for you.
Yeah, I do have one video where I documented a low point, and I think I named it like dealing with failure as an artist. And so that was last year, and basically, yeah, it was. I had been working on this series, and this series was a little bit of a leap for me, because I was dabbling in abstract, and I'm typically known for my more realistic work. And so it was totally outside like what people kind of knew me for. And I was taking a bit of a shot in the dark. It was just something that I was personally interested in pursuing as an artist, and to try and like break out of like my creative box that I had kind of like built for myself. And so, and I'm also like, I love mushroom foraging and mushroom photography. So I had this like entire library of all these like mushroom photos of mushrooms that I'd taken over the years. And so I decided that I wanted to like combine abstract with like all of these mushroom photographies. And it's like such a niche thing, you know, like, and so, but for me, I was like, screw it. Like, despite what anyone thinks, I'm still gonna do it because this is like what is creatively calling at the moment. And so I made 12 paintings, and I had made the first I think I made the first 6 or something years ago, and then I stopped the series, but then I kind of repicked it up again last year. And I spent, I think, like 3 or 4 months making the last paintings in the series, and I was like so excited to like finally share them and finally put them for sale on my website, because at that point I also wasn't making any money from YouTube. So I was like really relying on my art
Mm.
for income. And so I put all of these paintings for sale, and I don't know, like I had this expectation, I guess, that, okay, and then they're all gonna sell and I will be happy and move on with my life, and like everything will be fine and dandy. And I put them up for sale, and like nothing sold. It was like weeks and weeks of like nothing selling, and then me just feeling like, oh my God, like was this like what have I done? Like what? And yeah, and I really had to have like I made a video about, I guess, the entire experience of kind of like making the art, and then feeling like the entire thing was a failure because of the fact that I didn't sell them. And then also like realizing that just because I wasn't making money from it doesn't mean that it was wasted time. And also kind of like realizing that, yeah, as an artist, it's inevitable that this is going to happen, that this is like, you're obviously going to experience failure at some point. And that doesn't mean that it's wasted time, especially if what you're creating is something that you're really interested in, and if you're learning from the experience. And I also think that, like, as an artist, you have to be really good at saving your money because it's such an unstable form of income. Like some months it'll be like, yes, I'm rich, and then and then there's like a dry period of like 3 months where you make like $10, and it's like okay. So I think that like luckily, I've been pretty good at saving money throughout my whole life and career. And so um even in those points where I'm like, oh shit, I didn't make any money the past like 4 months, I can still be like, okay, I can afford to pay rent, I can afford to like eat and stuff like that. So I think that that also not having that financial stress also let me kind of see this not as a failure. It's like, okay, yeah, I didn't make a lot of money, or any money, but at least like I allowed myself the space to create what I wanted. And I think that that's really important as an artist. And that's also a topic that I've covered before, is like niching down. Because I think that a lot of people like feel this pressure to niche down with their work. But me personally, like, okay, yes, I'm known for more realistic work, but I have so many other interests. Like I like sculpting and jewelry making, and like carpentry and this and that, and like now like making like filmmaking and things like that. And I think that you have to let yourself like dive into those different things, because it will just make you a better artist. Like, I think you can't deny yourself of your curiosities as an artist. You have to be able to like allow yourself that space. And yeah, so I think that that's kind of like what that experience taught me, is like, even though it wasn't a success like financially, I still don't regret it, because I think that like dabbling or experimenting in this art form really taught me so much. And that knowledge I'll take with me in the future. And like, you never know how that can pay off. And I think that it will pay off. Like, you're always learning. And yeah.
Yeah, trying something new is never a bad idea, and it's even if it doesn't make any money, we put so much of our markers of success on whether something makes profit or not. And obviously, like, we do need to pay our rents. So if we keep making art that no one wants to buy, then that is maybe a signal to that we need to switch something up. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to make any more art because you're going to be homeless and not about able to afford any food. So it's unfortunate that that is the way of the world, but it is the way of the world, is that we do have to eat. So but like you say, it's you will be a better painter by the end of it. So experiment, play around with stuff, and it's like you said with the videos, of like not attaching too much expectation in them. It's I know it's so hard, especially when you're really excited about a body of work and you put it out there and it's crickets. But I do also think like maybe it just wasn't the right time for those, and you've still got that work and it's part of your back catalogue. And in 15 years time, when you're doing like a retrospective and the story of your career is told, or 20 years, 30 years time, and you put on a big show at a gallery and that work is there, you those paintings might sell then, and they might sell for 10 times what they would have sold if they'd sold a couple of years ago. So I think it's all part of your journey. And I think it's credit to you, where I think what's so difficult is when you've had early success, uh, because like most artists, I think, go through a very long period of everyone going, this is shit. Like, not even telling you that it's shit. They won't even give you the time. Like, no one pays any attention to you in the early stages of most art careers. But I think because you went quite quickly into selling a couple of pieces, moving on, like doing prints, and everything sort of like flowed quite nicely to then mid career to have this like wobble. I think it's credit to you how well you reframed it and moved on from it. So yeah.
Yeah. And actually, yeah, since making that video about failure, I think that it really resonated with a lot of artists. The video did really well in terms of views, and I think that that also gave the series a lot more exposure. And so since then, I actually have sold all of the paintings.
No way. That's
I know, and it
crazy.
was it was so funny. Like, I was really so upset when when it was just such a big letdown for me. And I decided, like, okay, I think I am gonna just make a video about this experience, because I feel like it's also important to talk about. And then like I released the video, and one of my collectors who has bought a few of my pieces in the past, like the next day after releasing this video, bought like the biggest painting in the series. And he was like, yeah, I saw your video about this, but I love this painting, and like, what a great, story behind it and whatever. And so then I was just like, oh my God, like this is so crazy. So yeah,
Do you know
it
you're the
turned out to
most
be a bit of a success in the
I know.
end.
Do you know what? You're the most annoying person on the planet, because your one failure turned into a massive success.
I think that there's a lot of other failures that are just like swept under the rug. But I think
Yeah.
that what I'm kind of good at is, I guess, just like moving on, if something didn't work out. And I think like going back briefly to like this whole confidence thing, I truly believe that confidence is like your biggest superpower as an artist. And I think that that's something that like I I wouldn't have considered myself like the most confident person when I decided to start like, pursuing my art career, because also like I'm self-taught, so I don't have any credentials. Like I don't, it's all been trial and error, trial and error, trial and error, but I think that like I kind of was a little bit delusional. I had like this delusional confidence in myself that I was like, okay, you know what? Despite anything happening, like this is what I want. And I just like if you can, and I don't think that confidence is also something that you're born with. I think that you can really like cultivate it over time, and it's just the messages that you tell yourself, and really like, you know, it's every time like if there is some kind of failure, you can say like, you know, it didn't work out this time, let's try again, instead of like, oh no, like, this is the end of me and like blah 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 blah. So it's really just like the messages you tell yourself, and I think that maybe that has been the reason why I have been able to find success in my career, is because I have always, I think, delusionally told myself like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, like the whole journey through. And I think that that is something, even if and obviously I've had low points where I'm like, what am I doing with my life? And like, blah, blah, blah. I think everybody experiences that. But I think at the end of the day, I've always had this like underlying motivation. And I think that I'm also lucky that I kind of knew from an earlier age that this is what I wanted, because I think that this is something like I think it's a little bit cheesy to say like this is my calling in life, but like I think that if you have some kind of idea like that in your mind, that you're actually lucky, because a lot of people don't know what they want to do with their life, and then when you don't have that like direction and that goal in mind, then it's really hard to like stay on a path that will lead you to something that like, that you want to do if you don't know what you want to do. So I think that in terms of that, like I was really lucky to be able to kind of find that early on and say like, okay, I love making art. I love creating in general. I know that this is something that I want to do. And even though I was like led astray a little bit, like I got my degree in landscape architecture because, my career counselor was like, there's no money in the arts. And like, you're going to be a starving artist. So like, obviously, I there was a little bit of detour in the path, but I think that it's always something that I knew that I wanted to do, and was also stubborn enough or delusional enough to actually like never really sway from that. So, yeah.
If you could put up a billboard that everyone in the world would drive past, what would it say?
That's a good question. Practice makes perfect. No, I'm just kidding. I always say like that's like the most cliche piece of advice, but I actually do think that it is true that practice makes perfect. But I don't think that that's what my billboard would say. I should have
I
thought a
don't
little bit
believe that
more about
practice
this.
makes perfect. I
No?
believe
I want to
I
hear
believe
your
that
take on that.
practice makes permanent. And
Mm.
if you are not, if you keep doing something wrong, it will always be wrong. So you need to be practicing, but you also need to be learning and refining as you go along.
Wow, that is very wise, David. Now I'm going to be,
I should have a
I will,
podcast.
yeah, you really should have a podcast. I'm gonna be like, my good friend David Speed once said, practice makes permanent.
Do it, do it. I love it. So I'll tell you what I would have on my billboard. It would just be the word make, because I think make is the most important word that we have. It's the most important thing that we can do. I think we are put on this planet to make or to caretake. So caretakers would be nurses and teachers and the people that are forwarding the planet by the way that they take care of people. And then we have the other people who are making stuff that brings joy to people, that helps people, that and makers and caretakers, I think, are the most important thing. So I just want people to make stuff because it would make the more people who make, the better the world will be. I think that's why I do this podcast.
Well, there you go. That is extremely true. Okay, I just thought of something. I think that my billboard would say, follow your curiosities, because I think that I think that is really like really important, especially as a creative person, to always follow your curiosities.
100% agree. Brooke, it's been an absolute joy to talk to you. We should probably do a part two because I didn't get to half of my questions that I wanted to ask you. So thank you for being you. Can you let everyone know where they can find you online?
So my website is just my name, brookecormier.com, and you can find me on Instagram also at Brooke Cormier. And on YouTube, I think my handle is b.cormier, but I think that if you just type in Brooke Cormier, hopefully you will be able to find me.
I did that this morning, and yeah, that is how you
It came up. Okay,
YouTube.
that's
It
good
did.
news.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
thank you so
fantastic.
much. Yeah, it
Thank
was
you.
really, really fun.
Wunderbar. Auf Wiedersehen.
Wunderbar. Auf Wiedersehen.
Do you know someone who would benefit from listening to this episode? If you do, share it with them. This podcast literally wouldn't exist if it weren't for the paid subscribers over at creativerebels.substack.com and for the team at Joy Collective.